Dan's up. Dan says, how do you deal with revenue share as far as making sure the contractor is being upfront with you? Do you ask to see the invoice for the job and then get a percentage of that? Or do you take a percentage of the profit? It depends on the arrangement, Dan. Like with tree service contractors, yes, it's, I guess, 10% of whatever the contract price is. However, I have made exceptions where if there is material costs involved, then I'll tell them it's 10% of the contract price minus so 10% of it's the contract price minus material costs, then 10% of that, because it's, most tree service stuff is not a lot of, besides, it's mainly labor really that they're paying. So I get 10% of that. However, on revenue share, where I've done like revenue share with remodeling companies, for example, I've gotten 10% of the profit margin on a job instead of the contract price. And it only makes sense because if you think about like a kitchen job that costs $35,000 for the full contract price, but the profit margin for the contractor is only 20%, then they're making $7,000 in profit off a $35,000 contract. So they're certainly not going to give me $3,500, 10% of the entire contract, right? They'll give me 10% of the profit instead. So, that it just depends on how you work it out. As far as the, how do you verify and how do you trust? You have, I mean, that's why I don't recommend doing revenue share with any contractor or, well, it's just, that's the only time I've ever done is with contractors, with any business owner until you developed a relationship, or if you get some sort of, concrete written agreement that kind of spells everything out, including access for you to verify contracts and stuff like that, because you can get burned really easily in doing revenue share models with people without confirming or verifying what they're telling you is true. And I know that through experience. I used to offer revenue share right out of the gate until I got a lot of leads that were, jobs that were stolen from me essentially because they were completed and I never got paid for generating the leads because the contractors were lying to me. And that happens. And the way that I overcame that was to use a telemarketing like outbound call center that would disguise the calls as outbound surveys that would call the leads that had come through my, my lead gen sites and just say, hey, we're calling on behalf of, and whatever the lead gen company's name was, and say, we were just following up customer satisfaction survey to find out, what it was about the offer, the estimate that we provided that, that you didn't like, what was it that caused you to go with another company? And this just, and they would disguise it as a survey like that. And what would happen is sometimes the people that they would call, the leads that the call center would follow up with would say, well, now wait a minute, we did hire you. We did end up having you do the job for us. And then I would go back to the contractor and say, confirm what jobs you did last month. And they would tell me, and if they would leave, that one or however many jobs I knew that they did out, then I would call them on it and fire them on the spot and then find another service provider. So, the way that I've learned over the years was not to offer that until I've developed a relationship. So the way that I do things is if, I'd either do on a pay per lead basis with a service provider until we've developed a strong relationship where they've paid on time, communication is good. We don't have any issues whatsoever. They're easy to work with. Then I might offer them a revenue share option. But again, I have to have a gut feeling and a good relationship developed, professional relationship, but one developed with them before I'll even offer that, because otherwise you have to have right out of the gate, you have to have agreements in place where you can verify, such as seeing copies of the contracts and things like that. You have to spell all that out up front, or else you will get taken by these people, which, by the way, I always thought it was really stupid most of the time I would get stolen from, it was from tree service contractors. And I don't mean to paint with such a broad brush, because tree service has been very, very good to me in the lead generation business. But a lot of tree service guys are just, have been, they're just not very honest. And so a lot of them would steal from me. And I never understood that, because that's like killing the goose that lays the golden egg. If I'm generating leads for your business and you only have to pay for them when you've closed a sale and actually made money from that lead, it's the only time you have to pay for it. Why the hell would you lie about it and close jobs and not pay for that lead just to get caught and get fired? So that lead source now dries up. You know what I mean? But it happens, and people will take advantage of you if you allow them to. So Marco, I know you probably got something to say about it.
Yeah, like right up front, you have to ask for transparency. You have to ask for what Bradley just said. You have to have everything available to you so you can confirm what's yours and what isn't. One of the things that I have to have is my phone. I don't care what the end phone that it rings through, but it has to ring through my. And you guys know I use CallRail. I love CallRail and everything that they have to offer. But I have to have that. I have to have that go through there. Now that just controls that. It doesn't control who goes through the website, right? You have no control over that, unless you get your phone on the website, which is a little harder to do because then there's just a lot of things. But at least if they're willing to bend on these things and if they're willing to work with you, then you can have a working relationship. If you get a flat out no, or they're just avoiding the question altogether and they give you a song and dance routine, just walk away.
That's right.
Walk away, because the person, you can gauge it right up front whether these people are going to be truthful with you, whether they're going to be be upfront about how much money you're making them and how much money they should pay you.
I agree. He says, when do you get paid? When they get the work or when they finish the job? I always just ask for payment once they get paid. So again, with tree service guys, a lot of the times the job will get done and it might be 2 weeks before they get payment. And depending on who the customer is, who hired the tree service contractor, sometimes they're property management organizations and it can take 6 to 8 weeks to get paid. Sometimes it's construction, site development companies. So like occasionally we'll get really, really big job where we got to go clear cut, do a lot clearing or clear cut a lot for construction, for development. And something like that could be a $35,000 job. And so it could take 2 months to get paid. That happens, sometimes we'll be leads will come through after a storm and they have the jobs will be paid by homeowners insurance companies. And sometimes they take a while to get paid. So, I just always tell the contractors just to pay me when they get, when they receive those, the payment for the job. So that's how I do it, but you could work it out any which way. It really just, what I like about it, guys, is it's just kind of like real estate deals in that you can, as long as you have agreement, everybody agrees on everything. You can spell out the terms of the arrangement up front, get it in writing, and now it's legally binding. And that's how you can proceed. So you can do it however you want, but just make sure you spell those terms out up front. All right.